I'm going to go through a checklist of things that you need to remember to do to make sure that you don't have the faceplant moment when you look back at your video and you realise you've got no sound, or your head's chopped off, or any of the other myriad things that happen when we don't go through a series of checks to make sure that our video is going to be the best it can be. Hi, I'm Viv, and I've been making YouTube videos now for a couple of years. This channel has been going for just over a year, and I've committed to getting this channel to grow. But it's been a bit of a journey to master all of the skills that we need to be able to create videos and not send ourselves into a state of insanity trying to get them right. And in this video, I'm not only going to be sharing a checklist that is useful to go through every time you make a video, but I'm also going to share my week 4 analytics as I'm trying to grow this channel, and I want to share with you the journey that I'm on. So let's get started with the first thing on your checklist, and that is to make sure that whatever device you're using to record your video on has power. Making sure that your batteries are charged, or if you're using a phone for your videoing, just making sure it's got enough charge to keep you going for the full length of the video. If you're using a static camera, in as much as you've maybe got a DSLR camera or something like that set up in an office, having a dummy battery is an absolute bonus, because you never have to worry about making sure that the batteries are charged. But especially if you're doing run and gun style vlogging or anything like that, you have got to make sure that your camera batteries are charged. Have them on charge as much as you can all of the time so they're ready to go. But it might be worth thinking the night before, if you know you're going to be recording a video the next day, to get those batteries on charge so you don't have any worries about power failures midway through your recording. The second thing you want to make sure is that you have enough storage. Now, if you're recording on a phone, you can eat through your storage very quickly, especially if you're recording in 4K. So make sure that you've got plenty of space on your phone. If you're using a device with an SD card, make sure that the SD card has got enough space. Whenever I use a device with an SD card, as soon as I've transferred all of the content off the SD card and onto my computer to edit, I reformat the SD card. That way I know that there's always storage space on my SD card. The third thing you want to try and remember to do is to check your camera settings before you start recording. I'm not going to go into what your camera settings should be, but basically you want to make sure that the frame rate is right for what you want to do. You want to make sure that if you're using a camera where you can dial in the settings, that you've got your depth of field right, that you've got the shutter speed right, that you've got the resolution that you want all dialed in. Number 4, you need to make sure if you're using an external microphone that it's switched on and that it's plugged in. The amount of times that I've recorded a video just to listen back and realize that the microphone wasn't fully engaged into the device. Maybe it needed just an extra little click, and I've got absolutely no sound whatsoever. And that's not great if you've just spent 20 minutes recording solidly and you've got absolutely no sound. If you're using a wireless microphone, something like the DJIs like this, again, you need to make sure that that's charged up properly as well. And also make sure that the gain and everything is set up properly so you get the best quality sound between the microphone and your device. Number 5 on the checklist is to make sure that you're correctly framed. You don't want to be sort of over here. You don't want to be over here. You don't want to be down here. You definitely don't want to be looking up like this. You want to make sure that you're in the center of the frame, most of the time anyway, and that your head is pretty high up, so there's only a little bit of space between you and the top of the frame. Obviously, if you're vlogging, that might not be quite the same, but certainly if you're doing a sort of head to camera type shot, you want to make sure that you're in the frame. Now, I have a problem today because the sun is over there and it's pretty bright, and I'm looking at the screen on the DJI and I just can't quite see myself, so I'm kind of guessing here, which could be absolutely funny if I'm telling you how to frame yourself and I'm completely out of frame. Let me see if I can just check. My lighting isn't great from this angle, I'm in shadow, but yes. So I'm pretty much where I want to be in the frame. The next thing to check is that your lighting is good. Now, ideally, if you can get in front of a window and use natural light, that's great. Ugh, something buzzing around my head. But if you're going to be using studio lighting or indoor lighting, just make sure that you look good. So you haven't got the lighting behind you causing a shadow. So if I look here, if I put the sun behind me, suddenly it's bright, but I'm all in shadow. If I just turn around, I don't want to be right into the sun here because it's way too bright. But if I just turn so that the sun is coming into the side of me, you can see me, and hopefully that looks all right. Squinting here, it is very bright. I think I'm going to move to a different location. I'm sat directly into the sun, so it's harsh on my face and I'm squinting. And I've tried so many different ways this morning outside to try and find a position where the lighting is good. And I can't. I'm either really shadowed or it's really bright. It's just a very hot sunny day. So do as I say, not as I do. Make sure that your lighting is good. The most important thing here is to make sure that the light isn't coming from behind you so you're not in silhouette. That is the most important thing. If you're inside, obviously you want to make sure that your face is well lit but not blown out. So if you're using indoor lighting, yeah, just make sure that you're not sitting with the light behind you and so that the light isn't harsh on your face. Often it's best to have the light coming in at an angle to you, and if you can sit in front of a window with some nice natural light coming in, that's not harsh like this one is, that's a good help as well. The other thing is, if you are using battery operated lighting, just make sure again that your light is fully charged so you're not going to lose that light midway through your recording, because that can be really frustrating too. Number 7 on the checklist is to have your script or your notes to hand. Ideally, make sure that you have some sort of notes written so you're not just coming onto camera without any idea of what it is you're actually going to be talking about, and it doesn't have to be much. These are my notes for this video. They're just the checklist points. The rest I'm talking through. But if you need to be more scripted, just make sure that you have all of that beforehand so that you're not floundering when you get onto the camera. Number 8, just make sure that you've turned off any notifications and that you're not going to get distracted by other things going on. So if you're recording on your phone, turn it on to airplane mode so that you're not going to get emails pinging up or somebody calling you midway through your recording, which is incredibly frustrating. Number 9, quite closely related to number 8, and that is make sure that you're not going to get distracted. If you're recording at home, just put a note or something on the door of the room you're recording in, just to let the people in your household know that you're recording so they don't come in midway and distract you. So you want to try and get as many distractions as possible removed so you're not having to stop and then try and restart again. Number 10 is when you hit record, make sure that it actually is recording. The amount of times that I've used my Apple Watch as a remote control for my phone and I've thought it was recording and then found that it isn't, and it is just so frustrating. Nobody wants to do something more times than they need to, and it's most frustrating when you've maybe recorded the video and you've felt like it's perfect, you've remembered everything you want to say and you feel like you've come across really well, and then you look and you find that you weren't actually recording. It is so frustrating. So just make sure that when you hit record, it is actually recording. And number 11, do a quick test. It only has to be a couple of minutes, but do a test recording so that you can check that your sound and your lighting and your framing and all of the other bits that you want to try and get right are right. Then you can start the whole video knowing that you've done everything you possibly can. to make sure that that video isn't an awful faceplant fail. Okay, they're my 11 checkpoint tips. I'm going to make this checklist downloadable for you. So if you go down to the description below, there'll be a link. There's no sign up. It's not an opt-in. You don't have to give your email address. You can just download the checklist. I just know that so many times I've started to record and had that awful moment when I've realised I've not done everything right, and just having a simple checklist would have been so helpful. Now obviously the checklist can go as granular as you want it to. This is a very high level overview of what you need to be checking. Your checklist is going to be different depending on which camera you're using, whether you're vlogging, whether you're doing a head to camera type video. So just adapt the checklist to what you need it to be. But having a checklist and following it step by step just helps you to ensure that you don't miss a vital step and end up feeling frustrated because the video isn't what you wanted it to be. Anyway, I'm going to get out of the sun because it is so flippin' hot today. Analytics, and I'm just going to walk you very quickly through what's been going on for me this week. So we're into week 4, but it's actually only 3 weeks of data that I've got, and it's the week ending the 29th of August. So overall my stats are actually down. The red shows that there's a decrease and the green shows that there's an increase. So my views overall this week are down by 33.5%. Don't know why. I've been putting quite a lot of content out there, so that's a little bit of a surprise, but hey ho. However, my watch time is up, and that is up by 25%, so I'm happy with that. Watch time is what I'm really interested in at the minute, because that's going to get me closer to the 4,000 hours. My average view duration as well is up. That's up to 32.5%, which I'm very happy with. Average view duration is an indicator of how long people are staying and watching my videos. The higher that is, obviously, the more time they're watching, which is good, and YouTube likes them to stay and watch. My click-through rate is down from 2.5 to 2.1. That's a 17.4% decrease since last week. That's disappointing. That would suggest that my thumbnails aren't grabbing people's attention the way they could. So that's down. My total subscriber numbers are up, which I'm very happy about. 2.2, well, near enough 2.3% increase there. But my new subscribers this week compared to last week are down. So last week I got 18 new subs, this week only 16. And in terms of where I'm showing up on YouTube, this is all down as well. So I'm not getting shown in suggested as much. They're the suggestions that you get down the right hand side of the screen if you're on a desktop. When you're watching a video, it's videos that are similar. So I need to figure out what's not happening there. I'm obviously not being promoted by YouTube in suggested. Equally, browse is down. These are the ones that you see when you first open YouTube, and they're kind of put out in front of you to try and grab your attention. That's a 29.6% decrease on last week. And also YouTube search is down as well. I'm not too worried about that because I don't optimize my titles and description potentially for, or particularly for, search. I do some keyword research, but they're not optimized for search. They're not normally sort of how to do this or whatever. It's not normally what people would be searching in the search bar. And my impressions overall are a little bit down, 3.94% down on last week, so it's not a massive reduction. In terms of the content I've put out there this week, I've done 5 videos as opposed to 4, so I don't know whether this is an indicator of getting lower reach because I'm actually making more content, which is why perhaps the watch hours have gone up. I've done 0 shorts. I'm not using a short strategy at the minute. And I've done 2 lives, which isn't quite true. One of those was a unlisted test with another YouTube creator. We were going live and we wanted to do a test. So in reality, I've done 1, which was fantastic. So there we go. Not the best stats for the week, but as I said last time, I'm trying to stay objective and not read too much emotion into this, and just treat it as data. That's giving me feedback, and that's all I can do. So there you go. That's this week's stats, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all again in the next one.